Whether you're running a small block Ford, a Coyote, or even an LS swap, getting a lot of power into a Foxbody Mustang is not really a problem. The problem is getting enough tire under the car to actually use that power. Even if you mini-tub, the stock spring and shock location is going to get in the way of putting a really big tire under this car. Fortunately, Moser's got a solution in their Super Fox system. The Super Fox system uses Moser's M9 fabricated 9-inch housing, but it also uses a special crossmember that allows you to use coilovers to move those springs and shocks inboard and give you room for big tires. You can get the Super Fox system from Moser with or without coilovers. In our case, we went with these JRI springs and shocks. Hey, even if you're not a Ford fan, don't tune out, because at the end I'm going to have some information on applications for the same system for GM. I talked to Jeff Anderson, got more information on this system.
By having more control over the spring rates and the adjustability of the shock itself compared to a stock setup, you're allowing yourself to be able to control a lot of what's tunable on the car. The squat, the instant center, and most importantly, the hit on the tire.
The Super Fox uses the stock locations for the upper and lower control arm mounting points on the chassis side, but they're adjustable for length, and on the housing itself there are multiple attachment points so you can really fine-tune the suspension geometry.
The whole package itself lends itself to being able to give the average guy the ability to tune the car where they can get the car to react to the power levels they have.
The Super Fox replaces the completely non-adjustable stock-style anti-roll bar with a chassis mount anti-roll bar that can be set for preload, which is going to help you get straighter launches at the drag strip.
Say, for instance, the car is pulling to the left when you launch. You would actually decrease the preload. If the car is pulling to the right when you launch, you would increase preload. All of that's tunability that isn't there in the factory unit.
Well, this is Lee Switzer from Switzer Performance, and he's volunteered to help us install this. And this is actually your brother's car, isn't it?
Yes, it is. My brother Daniel is building this car for half-mile land speed racing. What most racers have become accustomed to doing is take their big high horsepower car on a sticky street type tire and baby it for the first half of the track until they can get traction and go wide open, maybe third gear. Having a vehicle that will leave under traction from the very beginning, you can use that power the entire half mile, which leads to a significant increase in trap speed. This car is going to make somewhere in the neighborhood of 650.
And what's the combination?
This motor is a 351 Windsor-based small block Ford with a Edelbrock aluminum head, 80mm turbocharger, and EFI.
Now, what kind of trap speeds are you looking for in the half mile?
This car is expected to go 180 plus.
And we've got gearing to support that.
We do. We have a 350-to-1 ring and pinion ratio in this Moser M9. Should be just perfect.
Now, what does the adjustability on this do for you compared to the stock suspension? I mean, as a 4-link suspension, and we're keeping basically the stock 4-link design, but we're adding a lot of different adjustability into this.
Absolutely. So the key to making your car work from the very beginning is something that we call instant center.
You're trying to control the instant center, and all of that kind of works together. The anti-squat and the way the car is hitting the tire and the way you add power and it wants to separate, and by moving that instant center forward, you can help control that.
Now, one of the critical parts of this installation is installing the crossmember that mounts the coilovers and also serves as a sway bar mount. And in order to do that properly, we've got to make sure it's square in the car. We also have to make some modifications underneath here. I see that you've already got a fuel cell mounted, and we've cut out the bottom of the floor pan here, so we'll have clearance for all this. Now, in terms of getting that crossmember square, what's the process?
So we're going to take a couple measurements to mark the frame rail for this crossmember. We're going to take a measurement from the rear bumper forward 23 inches is Moser's specification, and we're going to verify that measurement from another universal point on both frame rails forward. So it's going to get tacked in place, and we're going to double and triple check those measurements on the ground and on the car, and then it can be finish welded.
When we designed this kit, we set it up so that the average person who is competent with using a welder and some basic shop skills should be able to tackle this and come out with a successful project on the other end. If you're comfortable enough to tackle doing a mini tub kit, you should have no issues installing this suspension package in your car.
Both the upper and lower control arms are adjustable for length by turning the center sections. That lets you set the pinion angle and square the axle to the chassis. They've got Heim joints on both ends to eliminate the slop and friction that's part of the stock suspension's rubber mounts. Moser suggests the middle positions as a starting point for the suspension mounts. By moving them, you can adjust the anti-squat geometry and control how hard the suspension hits the tire.
So basically, when you get to the track with the new setup in your car, you'll want to make 1 or 2 hits and kind of get a feel for how the car is reacting. Your upper control arms will work in conjunction with the rebound of your shocks. So depending on how the car is reacting, you can move those and swing those to adjust the upper control arm location to see what works best for your car.
The adjustable links on the anti-roll bar are used to build in preload to get the car to launch straight and to control body roll. The coilover mounts are adjustable too, so you can set your ride height to where you want it. We also picked up Moser's axles, center section, and brake kit for this rear end. Now, it'll take all sorts of standard 9-inch hardware, so you've got a really wide choice when it comes to the components you want to run with this. Obviously, we've got a little more work to do. We've got to get those mini tubs in there, get this thing ready for big tires, but I think we're well on our way. Now, if you're not a Mustang guy, here's the good news I talked about at the beginning. Moser also offers a Super G kit for 1978 to 1988 GM G-body cars that has all the same features as the Super Fox. And the word is that they're going to have an A-body package coming online in the near future. Well, I'm really happy with the way everything came together on this build. I want to thank Lee and everybody at Switzer Performance for giving us a little look into their world. Now this car has got a bulletproof rear end that can not only handle a lot of horsepower, but can also apply it effectively to the ground.